Airline Economics Daily News focuses on the news that moves the aviation industry, and the hottest topic remains the long journey to net zero. Airline Economics has launched its second annual Aviation Sustainability Awards, and the survey is now open for nomination of the foremost aviation companies making great strides on the decarbonisation journey. Cast your vote today by following the link in the description below. The news this week has a focus on the environment and the winners of the Aviation Sustainability Awards, and a full schedule covering all of the topics that we discussed today and more will be featured at the Airline Economics Aviation and the Environment Summit, taking place over 2 days in Dublin at the RDS from May the 11th, and it's free for all to attend. On to the latest sustainable aviation and future technology news from Airline Economics. This week, announcements relating to sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, have dominated Airline Economics Sustainability news this week. At the foremost, a groundbreaking deal brokered by the Sustainable Aviation Buyers Alliance has seen several corporations purchase SAF certificates from JetBlue. Bank of America, Boom Supersonic, Boston Consulting Group, JP Morgan, Meta and clean energy non-profit firm RMI are teaming up under SABA to purchase sustainable aviation fuel certificates at scale. SAF is more expensive than kerosene but produces far lower emissions. The corporations involved in the certificate purchase initiative pay the airline ticket premium for the SAF. The certificates are linked to 850,000 gallons of high-integrity SAF, which JetBlue will use to fuel some of its 2023 flying. Alex Liftman, Global Environmental Executive at Bank of America, said, "Our support and purchase of SAF through SABA is one way in which we are working to meet our goal of utilising SAF for at least 20% of the company's annual employee aviation fuel usage by 2030, while spurring broader demand to make SAF more accessible and more affordable." RMI said that the collaboration is a leap forward from previous individual SAF certificate purchases. And Sarah Bogdan, JetBlue's Director of Sustainability, said, "SAF is the most meaningful way we have to decarbonise the aviation industry, but it will take many stakeholders working together to bring the supply and cost of SAF where we need to meet our net zero goals." In its Future of Aviation supplement, published in tandem with the Dublin Summit, Airline Economics magazine will cover an in-depth article on SABA and the advances being made by the RMI and others to further the decarbonisation of aviation industry. Be sure to subscribe to the Airline Economics Journal today using the link below. In more SAF news, Ryanair is expanding its partnership with the sustainable aviation fuel supplier Nest to use a 40% SAF blend on its full schedule of Amsterdam Schiphol flights. The Irish carrier said that the significant increase in SAF use, which kicked in at the start of April, was a milestone in its efforts to power 1 in 8 flights with SAF by 2030 ahead of a wider net zero by 2050 target. Thomas Fowler, Director of Sustainability, said that Ryanair is delighted to extend their partnership with Nest to increase the amount of Ryanair flights at Amsterdam being powered with a 40% blend of SAF from a third of flights to our entire Amsterdam operation from the 1st of April. And Alexander Cooper, Nest's Vice President for Europe, Middle East and Africa, said that increasing the usage of SAF to all flights departing from Amsterdam Airport Schiphol, enabling Ryanair to substantially reduce greenhouse gas emissions of its operations at the airport. Wizair have also signed a memorandum of understanding with Cepsa, one of the main producers and suppliers of aviation fuels in Spain, for the supply of sustainable aviation fuel from for the supply of SAF from 2025. The MOU gives Wizair the opportunity to purchase SAF from Cepsa to supply the airline's route network across Spain. Cepsa's SAF will be produced from organic waste such as cooking oils or agricultural waste. The partnership follows an initiative that was run at Seville Airport in November 2022, when Wizair was among the airlines operating around 220 flights from the airport over 1 week using SAF produced by Cepsa at its La Rábida Energy Park in Huelva. This is the first time that the supply of SAF at this magnitude has been seen at an airport in southern Europe. It was also the first time in Spain that the entire value chain was certified traceable by the International Sustainability Carbon Certification System, from the production of the sustainable fuel to the actual supply. Wizair has established its SAF strategy, which includes securing off-take agreements with suppliers for the future to reduce carbon emissions per passenger per kilometre by 25% by 2030, and to reach a net zero by and to reach net zero by 2050. As part of its new strategic plan, Positive Motion, SEPSA is developing an ecosystem focused on accelerating the decarbonisation of industrial customers and air and maritime transport, as well as its own company through the production of green molecules, mainly renewable hydrogen and biofuels. Ian Mailing, Executive Vice President and Group Chief Financial Officer at Wizair, said that the team was excited to partner with SEPSA to establish a SAF supply chain for the airline in Spain. He added that in addition to flying the world's most sustainable fleet, we are making biofuel a key element to maintaining our leadership in sustainability and exceeding our commitment to reduce carbon intensity by 25% by 2030. There is more SAF news over in Japan, where Nest, Itochu Corporation and Fuji Oil Company have joined hands to supply SAF locally blended with conventional jet fuel to Japan. In this partnership, Itochu imported unblended Nest MY sustainable aviation fuel into Japan, where the fuel was locally blended with conventional fossil jet fuel in cooperation with the Fuji Oil Company. A portion of the blended SAF has been delivered to Chubu Centrair International Airport, with this airport becoming the third airport in Japan where Nest-produced SAF is commercially available. The others are Haneda and Narita International Airport, and the Vice President for the Asia-Pacific region from Renewable Aviation Business Unit at Nest said that the first delivery of fuel blended with Nest MY sustainable aviation fuel into Chubu Centrair Airport demonstrates a continuously expanding availability of SAF in Japan. The blended SAF was used in a demonstration project in flight inspection aircraft for Civil Aviation Bureau at the Japanese Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism. And Japan Airlines will be the first airline using SAF at Chubu Centrair Airport. The airline has already purchased locally blended SAF from Itochu, and the initiative will help Japan prepare for the future when significantly larger quantities of SAF will be needed to help the aviation industry achieve its emissions reduction goals. And in our final story on SAF, Etihad has issued a beginner's guide to sustainable aviation fuel. With the aviation industry rapid pivot to increasing and facilitating the use of SAF, the Air Transport Action Group, Etihad, has released a handy beginner's guide to sustainable aviation fuel. The guide looks at the opportunities and challenges in developing SAF for the commercial aviation sector and measures what will be required for the aviation industry to scale up production with assistance from governments. The link to the guide and links to 2 fact sheets on blended finance and sustainable aviation fuel finances are in the description. Moving on to airline ESG news now, and Air Canada has updated investors with its sustainability goals ahead of the company's annual meeting. Under Air Canada's Climate Action Plan, the airline set out its first TCFD, a task force on climate-related financial disclosures, to report and set ambitious goals for addressing climate change and achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Air Canada aims to cut air and ground operation emissions by 20% and 30% of 2019 levels, respectively, by 2030. It is committed to investing $50 million in SAF and carbon reduction removal by 2030. In 2022, Air Canada agreed to purchase 30 ES-30s electric hybrid regional aircraft from Heart Aerospace, along with a $7 million investment in the company. The airline is also upgrading its fleet with an order of 30 A321XLRs and 60 A220s. It has also invested $6.75 million in Carbon Engineering, a climate solutions firm focused on direct air capture technology. Air Canada is also committed to the social and governance aspects of ESG, with new appointments to the board now pushing up female representation to 38% of its members. As noted by TD Cohen, Air Canada was already an industry leader on diversity prior to this announcement. Only Sun Country, Alaska Air Group and Spirit Airlines currently have more female representation on their boards than Air Canada among US and Canadian airlines. Moving on now, and Etihad has had its sustainable aviation advert banned in the UK. In another warning against so-called greenwashing in the UK, Etihad Airways has become the latest major carrier to be penalised by Britain's regulator for publishing allegedly misleading and exaggerated environmental advertising. The Abu Dhabi carrier's sustainable aviation ad campaign has been banned in the UK after the Advertising Standards Authority said it was misleading people by exaggerating the environmental benefits of flying. The airline, which has for years featured prominently in the UK due to its sponsorship of football club. And finally, in tech news, Dutch company Maeve Aerospace has unveiled its new design for an electric civil aircraft for at least 44 passengers called Maeve 1. The final design was presented live at the Fokker terminal in The Hague on Thursday, April the 13th. Founder and Chief Executive Jan Wilhelm Heinen described the Maeve 01 as a serious replacement for aircraft in fossil aviation. Maeve estimates that within 8 years, more than 200 million passengers will fly fully electric because rail and road transport cannot offer a full alternative. Maeve Aerospace Chief Financial Officer Erwin Koinrads noted the worldwide demand for a zero-emission civil aircraft and stressed that only sustainable aircraft can provide a future for civil aviation. The new aircraft has been modified in some essential ways compared to previous concepts, and among other things, Maeve 01 has a larger battery capacity, enabling longer flights. This gives the aircraft a range of about 460 kilometres or 250 nautical miles, which includes routes between London, Paris and Frankfurt airports. Developments in battery technology will further increase this flying distance, along with the new aircraft having an available cabin increase size of 20% to increase passenger capacity. Maeve Aerospace's Chief Technology Officer Martin Neusler from Germany presented the new aircraft specifications, which include the addition of a front motor to enable most silent taxiing, as well as the ability for the aircraft to reverse rather than wait for pushback assistance, maximising time on the ground to devote to charging the batteries. Maeve's technical team expects to conduct the first test flights in or before 2028, and this puts the development of Maeve 01 on track to be into service by commercial airlines in 2030. Toyin Kraj, founder of Fly with Lucy, a newly established European operator backed by Air France KLM Group carrier Transavia via its investment division Transavia Ventures, announced at the launch that the company had signed a letter of intention to purchase the very first Maeve 01 airplane. Maeve 01 also received support from Shah Aslam, Chief Executive of Air Napier, a regional airline based in New Zealand, which is working to reduce carbon on shorter routes. Aslam noted that the airline was in discussions with Maeve Aerospace for solutions for all-electric regional travel. There are more details on the Maeve 01 design, and interviews with the key personnel will be available in the forthcoming Airline Economics Future of Aviation magazines to be distributed to Airline Economics subscribers and delegates of the Dublin Aviation and the Environment Summit. Airline Economics Daily News focuses on the news that moves the aviation industry, and the hottest topic remains the long journey to net zero. Airline Economics has launched its second annual Aviation Sustainability Awards, and the survey is now open for nomination of the foremost aviation companies making great strides on the decarbonisation journey. Cast your vote today by following the link in the description below. The news this week has a focus on the environment and the winners of the Aviation Sustainability Awards, and a full schedule covering all of the topics that we discussed today and more will be featured at the Airline Economics Aviation and the Environment Summit, taking place over 2 days in Dublin at the RDS from May the 11th, and it's free for all to attend.